Hey guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's August 19th, 2019. Hello, Steve.
Hey Jim, welcome back everybody. Hope
Yep.
you all had a good week. What would you like to lead off with today there, partner?
Well, listen, I think it's worthy of bringing up the National Football League, being that we're getting close to opening day. So let's start with that. And of course, our NFL segment is sponsored by Coriano Trucking Inc. And we thank them for that. So yeah, let's obviously talk about this Antonio Brown. What do you make of this nonsense? This
We
guy.
talked about it last week. It's exactly what it is. It's nonsense. He got paid and he's showing his true colors.
I guess, but I mean, it's just like a circus.
It's
I don't.
pathetic. He doesn't want to practice. They're not going to play him in a preseason game.
Okay, well, nobody's playing their starters in preseason games anyway.
I
So
get it.
I mean, come to practice at least, you know.
Well, Mayock, the general manager, finally had a press conference, or I think he was just talking to reporters after practice.
Yeah, I don't think there
But
was a plan.
I believe the Raiders have had enough of this nonsense already, and I think they laid the law down now. So he's going to have to show up at practice. I don't care what helmet he wears, but we did talk about him last week, kind of specifically of what a cancer I think he is, and he probably was in Pittsburgh. And Ben Roethlisberger. Are we the biggest Ben fans from a personality perspective? Absolutely not.
Negative.
Is he going to the Hall of Fame for his playing ability?
Probably.
Most likely.
Right.
But I got to say, Antonio Brown, like I said earlier, showing his true colors. And I don't know which way it's going to go. Is this guy going to, have 104 catches and his standard, 1,200, 1,300 yards with 15 touchdowns? Because that's the expectation level. And let's make no bones about this. That's what he's being paid for, and that's why he's got the dough that the Raiders shelled out for him. But he
Right.
better produce.
But is Derek Carr, a Roethlisberger type that can put up those kind of numbers? I haven't seen it yet. I mean, I know they've invested a lot in this guy, and I'm still on the fence with him.
I'm a Derek Carr fan. And I remember Gruden's quarterback camp. I'm a big fan of that show. When Gruden had his quarterback camp, and the top 4 or 5 quarterback recruits would come in, sit with him in his classroom, and you got a perspective of what they can comprehend, and especially with Gruden throwing out Xbox Z 360, go up to the chalkboard, this, that, and the other thing. But what I remember specifically about Derek Carr was Gruden was all in on him. He really was, and now I know they had a bad year last year. I get that, but he's going to have this year to prove himself. And with having an Antonio Brown who, better produce like Tim Brown did, right?
Absolutely.
So I saw with Tim Brown, Hall of Fame Tim Brown of the Raiders, and let's face it, Tim has been retired. It's got to be 20 years by now.
Yep.
But Tim Brown, I believe, was the last Raider to have 100 catches, to have 1,200, 1,300 yards.
Yeah.
And I think Tim Brown probably had anywhere from 12 to 14 touchdown catches. With back in the day, that was major league production.
But listen, I take this whole Gruden QB camp thing. He was a media guy. So everybody that he had on was great. So I don't know if he was just blowing smoke or what. I just haven't seen Derek Carr, to me, move into the elite class of NFL quarterbacks.
No, he has not.
And I know maybe he doesn't have the tool, or hadn't had the tools for a few years, but I'm still on the fence with him. And if somebody thinks that Antonio Brown's going to get 100 catches and Derek Carr is going to throw for 40 touchdowns, I'm on the fence. I know some Raider fans that they kind of like Carr, but I just haven't seen him move into that elite class yet.
I haven't either, but I think he's a serviceable quarterback, and if given the weapons that he has, I would expect him to step it up this year,
Yep.
right? And then again, Gruden signed for 10 years, so this is year 2 for Gruden. So
Right.
if he's going to have to,
Right.
get rid of Derek Carr in the next year or so, he's going to have a problem doing that. And who's to say if he doesn't have a real good year that the Raiders are not going to be sniffing Tua next year in the draft, and maybe they wait another year and then they go all in on this Trevor Lawrence kid we talked about from Clemson, because he is going to be the consensus #1 pick in 2 years. There's no question. So
Yeah.
it's a year or two for Derek Carr. Let's see what he's made of.
Right.
I think he's a good quarterback,
Right.
but to your point, I don't think he is elite or considered elite.
I sure don't.
But back to Antonio Brown, I don't think I'm surprised by the antics, because once they get paid, and now he's going into this Terrell Owens persona and all the other idiots that have preceded him. But once they get paid, man, the true colors come out.
Well, I think that's exactly why, this could potentially happen with the Jets and Le'Veon Bell, too. I think he's kind of the same type of player, very, very talented, but just likes to stir up controversy and doesn't like to practice, and I don't know.
It's not the NFL of yesteryear.
No, it's not.
It is certainly not. Now, speaking of the New York Jets, they played their preseason game, and one of their key guys is Avery Williamson, linebacker.
Out for the year.
They keep him in there. I think he was really the only starter out there, and what happens? Blows his knee out. He's out for the year.
Yeah, it's a big loss for them, too.
It's a big loss. Can I throw Adam Gase under the bus for this? I don't think so. I mean, you still got to get reps out there. And in his defense, he's talking about, listen, they were trying some packages, this, that, and the other thing. So, do you never play these guys? That's kind of the question I'm throwing at you.
I guess.
But it's a loss for them. The guy's a talented, fast linebacker. Of course, they signed C.J. Mosley, but we'll see
Who I
what
said
happens.
was one of the almost unquestionably the blew me away, the amount of money they paid him. I mean, it blew me away. And I know you were a big fan of his.
I am
know-
a big fan of him. The captain of Alabama, a national champion, and all he does is make tackles. Did they overpay for him? Yes, they did.
Right.
But you got all this money, you got to spend it.
I guess.
And he's an upgrade, though. And I saw an interview with him actually during maybe third quarter or something of that game. Big fan. It's the C.J. Mosley.
Okay.
Big fan.
All right. Just the money just shocked me. It shocked me. I mean,
Yeah. And then the other thing during preseason, your boy Kareem Hunt made his preseason debut.
he
And-
says that jokingly, my boy. Obviously.
Obviously, but he's still on the hook for an 8-game suspension. And we've talked about Cleveland. I think their cupboard is pretty full with groceries right now. And
Well, they seem
I had a conversation I was down the Jersey Shore over the past couple of days, and I actually had a conversation with a couple fans. And I think everybody's in on Cleveland to win the division. I don't know about winning the division, but making a wild card. And then the more I thought about it, especially with Pittsburgh somewhat rebuilding, Baltimore, I have no faith in Lamar Jackson. I think he's a talented runner. I just don't think he is a bona fide NFL quarterback. He's going to be learning on the ropes.
He's had a few years
The
to-
Bengals got a new coach, Zach Taylor, and they're the Bengals. So after talking to a couple guys down the shore, I said, you know what? Yeah, I think when we do our NFL preview show, I'm probably going to pick Cleveland to win the division.
Well, it seems to be and again, this whole betting thing has become, because it's legal all over the place now.
Right?
Cleveland seems to have been getting a ton of money, for not only winning the division, not only making the wild card, but winning the Super Bowl, which I said that's a reach.
I'm not going that far.
That's a reach.
That I'm not doing.
Yeah.
But like we talked about on previous shows, Cleveland's been so bad for so long. They've had these #1 picks for what it seems like the last 10 years
Yeah.
at least, right? So it's time. I think Baker Mayfield, we keep touching on him. I think in his second year, he's only going to get better.
I agree.
I think they have the formula in place, and now it's a matter of applying it on the field. So
And you know what would be almost a shame if Cleveland finally does come around and it's taken all this, is a guy like Joe Thomas who was on that team in the crappy years, and he's a Hall of Famer.
oh, he's a Hall of Famer in waiting. I mean, what's he retired? 2 years now?
Yeah, he's gonna miss
He's a
this
first
kind of
ballot.
thing.
He's no Warren Sapp.
No,
He is a first time, right?
and he was always a class act in the NFL. And I think he was a player rep for
Yeah, he's
them,
a
too.
good guy. I've heard him on interview shows. He's his own man. He's a good guy actually. He was
Yeah.
always a good teammate. He was a bona fide first team All Pro. And yeah, there's guys like that play their whole career, and unfortunately, they never sniff a Super Bowl. But
Yeah.
he's one of them.
Yeah, I always liked him though, and I always said, it's going to be a shame if he finally turns his helmet in, and now they start stocking up. That's kind of one of those stories that I always feel is like a
And he played at Wisconsin as college ball, and he
Yes.
was one of the, Wisconsin is known for their beef on the offensive line.
indeed.
But I got to also say he's probably the greatest lineman to come out of Wisconsin, I would say.
Hmm.
Right?
I can't off the top of my head think of somebody.
If he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, then I can't think of any other Wisconsin first, ballot Hall of Famers.
Well,
I'm sure they may be, but
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think of Joe Thomas, I think of Wisconsin, and I think Hall of Fame.
But there's one thing there's one player that I just wonder what's going on with this Andrew Luck. I think there seems to be more to it. Like they're not going to put him anywhere near the field until obviously the first game of the regular season, if he's ready. He might have some chronic issue or something because he can't stay on that field anymore. And
Now we're talking ankle issue, but to your point, he's going to be due a big contract too, right? We talked about that a couple weeks ago.
yeah, he's probably due.
About Dak Prescott. That Prescott wants $34 million because he wants $1 more than Carson Wentz. Russell Wilson at $35 million is the standard bearer, and I got to tell you, if he can't stay healthy, that's a big consideration. Are the Colts going to go all in and give him a signing bonus of
Not if he doesn't stay on the
70,
field.
$80 million dollars,
Which is what's going on now. I mean, if Dak Prescott's worth $35 million a year, what would a healthy Andrew Luck be? This is going to blow the whole salary structure.
Andrew Luck, if he's healthy,
Yeah.
will become the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. There's no question.
Until somebody else comes up.
And you said Cam Newton, and I almost threw up about a month ago. But he may
They're gonna pay him.
He may also be in that territory. And if I am the owner of the Carolina Panthers, there isn't a chance in hell I would pay Cam Newton that kind of money.
I don't know
In
what
fact,
their options are.
I would be begging somebody to take him off my hands and get him out the door and plan for the future. I have no faith in Cam Newton. I just don't.
I don't either.
That is he a talented guy? Yes. I mean, I'm trying to be objective here, but our philosophy. We're character guys, hence the New England Patriots formula. We could recite many Super Bowl winning teams that have character guys.
Yeah.
And I don't foresee Carolina ever winning a Super Bowl being led by this guy.
I do.
It's all about him.
That's a fair point. But if Dak Prescott is going to be the benchmark for making money as the starting quarterback in the NFL, I don't see where it's going to stop. Right?
That's exactly the point.
When these guys start coming up, right? When Daniel Jones, 4 years from now, let's assume he stays on this path, and
Sure.
everyone seems to be buying into him. And I told you, I've been on his bandwagon since day one. I think it was a great pick. I think he's going to work out great. But this, when is this going to end? I mean, this paying these guys for mediocrity. And listen, if Andrew Luck is healthy, he's one of the top 2 or 3 best quarterbacks in the NFL,
It's a
right?
top 5, definitely top 5 when he's healthy because he's smart. He's a really smart guy.
Oh, he's
He's
intelligent.
got all the physical tools. He's a team leader.
Yeah.
I think the Colts are starting to rebuild around him. He's got some talent there.
Yeah.
And Andrew Luck has been in the league, God, what, 6 years, 7 years now?
Probably 7.
Right? So what is he? Probably 28, 29. He
Right.
still has probably a good 5-year window.
Right.
But back to your original point, can this guy stay healthy? Lately, he hasn't been able to.
Yeah, and I hope he does because I like him. I'd like
I
to
do
see
too.
him healthy and put up some big numbers and certainly make more than Dak Prescott is going to make because I can't get past it. I don't mean to harp on it, but to me,
Well, it's going to happen. It's going to happen pretty soon.
I
actually.
know it's going to happen. I know. Forgetting the whole Zeke who comment that Jerry Jones made, and now, that certainly made its way to Cabo in 30 seconds.
Apparently, Zeke didn't appreciate that comment coming from Jerry about, Jerry's just doing his negotiation. We feel that Zeke is an important piece of what we're trying to do here.
And I think Zeke will get over that real quick when the Brinks truck backs up into his driveway.
Yeah,
But,
there's no doubt. So,
you know what? That's the first thing I've agreed with Jerry Jones saying since he's owned the team. Is I'm not a big fan of his. I know he's built this empire in Dallas, and he certainly makes a ton of money. But that I thought was pretty funny.
But he's getting old.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm watching some of these interviews with Jerry lately. Age is really starting to kick in on him. I don't really see how much longer he's going to be viable to run the team.
Well, he's turning it over day by day
Well,
to Steven, right?
Steven's going to take over. There's no question. But my point is, how
Yeah.
long is Jerry going to be the mouthpiece? And I think age is really creeping in. So I'll peg it for another maybe 2 years before I think Steven becomes the face of.
What is Jones? 70.
He's old. He's got to be
Four,
He's
right?
older than that. He's
Huh?
got to be older
Yeah.
than that. So.
Well, that makes he's
We'll look
got to
that
be
up.
older. That's how Jimmy Johnson. They were teammates at Arkansas, right? I mean,
Yeah.
is Jimmy Johnson that old?
Late 70s he's got to be.
Huh?
76, 77.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Jimmy's in better shape than Jerry, I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, well, he certainly looks better.
Uh,
I guess life on a boat.
Yeah, who's got a better life than Jimmy Johnson down in Miami? Let me tell you something.
Yeah, he's 76,
Right.
actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, again, we're a couple weeks out, 3 weeks maybe from the start of the NFL season, and
Yeah.
then, we'll do an NFL preview show and make our picks. And
Because there'll be
Things
the
like
standard, handful of NFL cuts and so forth of guys that you say, oh my God. But, most of those guys end up getting picked up by somebody else.
Right, and then back to the point of the Jets losing Avery Williamson, I'm sure there's going to be a serviceable linebacker that gets cut, and
Right.
I'm sure the Jets will
Yep.
snatch him up.
Yep.
So, outside of what we just discussed of the preseason, I wouldn't say there's anything much, but back to Antonio Brown, I'm already sick of this act, and he just better produces for Raider Nation, let me tell you something.
And listen, I mean, this whole other thing, this whole Jay-Z and this Kaepernick thing just keeps going on and on and on. And I don't think we want to cover this because I don't think we know enough about what's going on with this. Like, now Eric Reed, who was, the side-by-side with Kaepernick, taking the knee and so forth. And they keep saying, like, Kaepernick is being blackballed. And I think he was 5-19 in his last 25 games as a starting NFL quarterback. So is he getting blackballed, or is he just not a very good quarterback? And I don't know. You could.
I think it's both. I do. And, Eric Reed hasn't done much lately. I mean, I remember Eric Reed at LSU. When he came out, this guy was one of the top draft picks, and I really wanted him on Dallas. But there's a lot of baggage with this.
I know.
And I think Reed is calling out Jay-Z as a hypocrite that Jay-Z's getting in bed with the NFL. Well, hypocrite or not, it's a ton of dough here at stake. Now, of course, Jay-Z has a ton of dough.
Yep. Yep.
So this will all blow over at some point.
But didn't Eric Reed suffer a real bad injury when he was in San Francisco? I think isn't that what
He's
kind of
gotten
set
hurt.
him back?
He's got hurt, but
Yeah.
I think he's on Carolina now, trying to resurrect his career.
It's just so political, but
It is.
I don't know if we want to go into details on it because I don't think we know a lot about it. But
Again, I mean, what we do on this show is kind of go from an owner's perspective and what we would do if we were in control of this team. So I'll throw that right at you. So you own one of the teams in the NFL. Are you, as a businessman, want Colin Kaepernick on your team if he's not a productive quarterback, let alone all the political nonsense that goes with it? Me, I'm flat out saying no. I don't want you.
I think I agree with it. I mean, I can appreciate his political stand and so forth, but I'm just talking on the field. He's not an elite quarterback, and his record doesn't prove
Indicate
him out.
that. Did he have a good run to take him to the Super Bowl? Did he play well for X amount of period of time? He did.
Yep.
I'll give him credit for that. But no way am I taking him on that team.
I agree.
So, again, we'd always love to hear from our audience. We got some good feedback on the last show. We wanted to thank a few of our listeners that reached out. So this is like a topic that we'd love to hear from you, and what your thoughts are on Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah,
so
please
if you have
do.
thoughts,
Please do.
send us an email at sportswithmono@gmail.com.
Yes.
Okay, so
Right.
we've covered the NFL.
All right, so let's move on to our next segment. Let's talk a little bit of Major League Baseball, and this is sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut, and of course we thank them as well.
Yep.
So listen, you were right on this guy. I got to give you the kudos on the polar bear, Pete Alonso. I thought it was kind of a early in the season flash in the pan. Didn't think it was going to last. He's crushing it, and we're not going to cover the baseballs flying out of here, but
We already did talk about
we
that.
did. But this guy standing alone now breaks the National League rookie record, which was broken in
2 years ago
2
by
years
Bellinger,
ago by
Cody Bellinger.
Right.
But we also looked up, and it was Frank Robinson that held this record for an awful long time.
Yes.
So here's another wacky stat I saw probably this morning. So there's 4 guys right now at this stage in the season, August 19th,
40 home run club, right?
40 home run club. You got Trout, Bellinger, Alonso, and Yelich.
Right.
That's a lot of home runs.
Right.
That's a lot of potatoes, as Kramer would say.
Yes.
From Seinfeld, right?
That's right.
So again, we talked about the balls being juiced. There's no question they are.
Yeah.
But I'm not diminishing what Pete Alonso's doing by any stretch. In fact, he's one away from the Met record, single season Met record.
Which it knocked me over with a feather before, because obviously when you asked me the question, I said, well, it's got to be Strawberry or somebody, George Foster or somebody like that.
Kingman or something like
Right.
that. But again, like I said earlier, I was down the Jersey Shore this weekend, and one of our loyal listeners, Greg Paravati, who we shouted out to before, and he's the one who asked me that question. And we're sitting around, on the beach, and I'm like, and then when he said Todd Hundley, catcher, 41, and Carlos Beltran tied that. That's the Mets single season record. I said, wow.
But George
I did not know that.
George Foster didn't hit 40 home runs for the
I don't know if
Mets?
George Foster hit 40 home runs for the Mets combined, because he certainly wasn't George Foster of the Cincinnati Reds when they signed him.
I guess.
Right? But that would be a good guess. But I think Foster probably hit.
Kingman would have been a good guess too, actually, but
Yeah.
Todd Hundley wouldn't have been on my. I would have said Bud Harrelson before that.
Well, I think the point is mute now because Todd Hundley and Carlos Beltran are going to be the former record holders of this record because
course.
Alonso's got 40. And like I said about 3 weeks ago, I still think he's going to go 50. He may break Judge. I mean, it's August 19th, and if he gets hot again, I don't see him not hitting at least 50 now.
Right. Well, there's still a month and a half of the season. I
And
don't
we
see. I
talked
don't see
about-
how he's not going to
Right,
get 50.
and we talked about what is the home run record for a rookie?
Judge.
It's Aaron Judge,
Yeah.
52, which is only what 2-3 years ago.
2 years ago.
So
3
congratulations
years
to this Pete Alonso. So
Yes.
speaking of the Mets, we patted them on the back last week. They actually have a very important homestand coming up. So the Mets are going to be home. They got 3 tough teams coming in. They got the Indians,
Yep.
they got the Braves, and they got the Cubs. So this is really make or break for the Mets. I know they're in wild card contention now. We talked about this about a week ago when they, went on this real hot streak, made up a lot of ground.
Again, they're still hanging in there.
They're
I thought
hanging in there,
It
but-
could have faded after the 13-game
But
winning
I'm going to
streak.
stick to my prediction of a couple weeks ago and even last week. I'm going to say it's a tough road to hoe, and I don't foresee them making the wild card. I don't. I could be wrong, but I'm holding. That's my prediction.
Wow, it's totally wide open because it doesn't seem like anybody wants to win the wild card. So if you're right, this is a big series, and playing the Indians is no picnic because they're really a tough team.
They are, and the Indians just came into Yankee Stadium, and actually the Indians, and we talked about this too. They're playing great baseball. I think the Yankees and them split.
They did.
There was a lot of runs scored, but they look good.
They did.
And now they're going by Flushing by the Bay to take on the Mets. But the Yankees are staying head above water, playing really good baseball.
Yep.
Wanted to comment on Brett Gardner. So
I'm
Brett,
glad that you're bringing this up because I wanted to comment on it too, but go right ahead and
listen,
I'm sure it's the same
now
as
Brett
mine.
Gardner has been a good Yankee for 10, probably 11 years. He has been. We cannot deny that. But I really think this is going to be his last year. But these antics in the dugout, I mean, it's a little bit over the top for me with the
It's a
the
lot
bat.
over the top.
And I just wanted to call him out and say, cut the crap and
You're
go
a-
back to playing baseball.
You're a 250 hitter.
Right.
This is
You're
right.
not Paul O'Neill smashing a water cooler.
And I think he knows this is his last year, and he's trying to go out with some kind of a reputation as this tough leader of the Yankees. I agree. It's nonsensical these antics that it's going on, and now he loves to be on TV now.
Right.
I mean,
and what is he doing? He's breaking balls on balls and strikes. And listen, when he did his little show a couple weeks ago, I mean, he got screwed on that. But he won't be the first baseball player, and he won't be the last one to get screwed by an umpire on a bad call or whatever the case may be. But I think he looks childish, and I think he makes Aaron Boone have to do damage control.
that's exactly
that
what's happening.
Aaron Boone doesn't necessarily need to do. And speaking of Aaron Boone, I think what a great job this guy's done. His demeanor is great. Big fan of Aaron Boone, and I think he's doing a great job
I do
leading the
too.
Yankees.
I do too. And he's, you know what? You're right. His demeanor. We always joked about Joe Torre and how he was beloved by the media because he says all the right things, and he certainly passed that skill set on to Joe Girardi, who was the exact same way, right?
He's just a Bigelow T loving guy,
Right.
Joe. Everybody loved Joe.
Right.
Right? Ha ha.
But handling the press and so forth, if you give them what they want, they'll treat you like gold, and Boone's done that. But I really think he's a terrific manager, and I was very, very surprised at the selection when they called him out of the booth. Never managed before.
Yeah, but we talked about it.
Yep.
He blew the competition away in his interviewing. And listen, I mean, he won 100 games last year,
Yep.
and they're well on pace to do it again. So speaking of the Yankees, so Stanton was placed on the 60-day disabled list. Does that mean his season is over? No. I think it means he comes back in early September. But this Gio Urshela has just been, I don't, this guy is batting .412 in his last 60 at bats. He's got 10 home runs in his last 60 at bats. He's got 28 RBIs in his last 60.
And he's
at
a
bats.
damn good fielder too.
And he's been playing good in the field. Now, what do the Yankees do when Stanton comes back? And I was listening to a couple of callers from the competition, and what do you think they're going to do? They're going to put Stanton in left field,
and
and,
Gardner
and,
sits.
if he strikes out 37 times, then that's what's going to happen.
Right.
So Urshela, Luke Voigt is hurt. What do they do when Luke Voigt comes back? I think Luke Voigt deserves to play first base because I think he earned that job. So what do you do with DJ LeMahieu? Do you play him at third over Urshela? Yeah, I would too.
Well, no, but
So the point is, there's going to be a
Personnel
lot of
decisions that have
personnel
to be made.
decisions to the Yankees. But all this, my point is this Gio Urshela, who we talked about last week, we never heard of him prior to the season. Nobody expected this production. But what do you do with a guy that has just been on fire, man?
you keep him in the lineup. He plays third. LeMahieu plays second. Torres plays short, or you could flip him around
You
or
got
whatever
Didi
you
at
want.
short. You got Torres, who is
You're right.
got 29 home runs, who is playing lights out as well. DJ LeMahieu is not sitting under any circumstances.
You cannot sit
In fact,
him.
DJ LeMahieu very well may win the batting title. I don't think he'll win MVP because Trout's got 40 homers.
Yeah, that's
that
already
type
locked
of thing.
up. That's locked up.
But the point is, back to the Stanton question, there is no debate, folks. You're paying him what you're paying him.
He has
And the
to play.
fact is, he's a bona fide all-star, too. When this guy is on, the guy hit 59 freaking home runs a couple years ago. Drives in 120, 130 when things are right. But he can't stay on the field either. And is he like an Andrew Luck now, where, these guys that are super talented can't stay on the field? And that's going to be a big contract to eat, man. When we talked about Jacoby Ellsbury a couple weeks ago,
they're choking on
and
that.
what they're choking on, well, you're going to choke
choking
on
on
this a hell of a lot more.
You're right about this, but I don't know where Hicks is. Whether he's back or he doesn't seem to be able to stay on the field either. And who else has earned a chance to play every day is Cameron Maben.
No,
he's been a really solid player.
He has been. He's well liked too in the clubhouse. He's a journeyman. He's probably in his early 30s. He's played a while.
10-year guy.
Yeah, so he's contributed too. But the bottom line is, they're all in this year to get to the World Series and actually win it. So I got to think Stanton is going to be healthy mid-September. Get 2 weeks of live pitching in, get acclimated to it. But
Well, they're not adverse.
I just wanted to call out this Gio Urshela because week after week, this kid has just been
I know.
a godsend.
No, it's no question. He does not sit, and we already mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. That means Andujar is trade bait for somebody, and he's not a bad player. He's a horrible fielder, but he's
young
a good
kid.
hitter.
Listen, obviously it's a lost season for Andujar. We'll see what happens. He's got to show up in training camp, and when he does in spring training, then he's going to have a battle on his hands with
Agreed.
Urshela. So.
Agreed.
But the Yankees are playing well.
It's a good problem to have.
It certainly is.
Good problem to have.
So regarding the wild card in the AL, Indians are battling the Twins. So I got to think the Indians or Twins are definitely going to be one of those teams.
Agreed.
Tampa is right in the hunt. I think they're only maybe 2 or so behind Cleveland. Who's playing good baseball under the radar is the Oakland A's. They're in contention too.
They were always in contention.
Yeah, but for a wild card, and they're all bunched up there. And the Boston Red Sox, they're in trouble, man. They're 6.5 back, and they're starting to run out of. They've still got time. They could go on a Boston run.
But
We've
sales
talked
out
about
now, so
Right.
Well, we'll see about that. But here was an interesting thing I saw, and I was actually shocked by this because the guy's been on so many different teams. Zach Greinke won his 200th game. Would you have thought he had 200
No.
major league victories? I mean,
No.
Not me.
No.
And he's been all over the place, right?
Hmm.
Milwaukee, he's been in the Dodgers, he's been in the Royals, he's been on the Diamondbacks. I mean, I don't know why they keep shopping him around, but 200 wins? That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so he, I guess, we talked about CC at what? What's he got? 250? 251 or something.
Yeah.
Is he going to get there? I would say he's probably going to get there. I mean, Zach Greinke is got to be 32 or something like that. He's got
Yeah, not old.
really has never had a history of arm problems. So I could see him 260, 270, maybe if he stays healthy. But we're going to hold firm. We're never seeing a 300 game winner again.
Not in this day and
We're
age.
not. We're just not going to do it.
I don't even know if anybody has. I mean, if Zach Greinke has 200 wins, how many could Clayton Kershaw has got to? He's got to have like 199. I don't know, something
Right.
like that, because he's a stud.
Right?
He is a stud. And
He
he's
is a stud, but I think he's starting to get on the backside of his miles on his arm. So speaking of Zach Greinke, he's 3-0 for Houston. Houston just had a little blip. They lost 5 straight. They won yesterday. They came back. But
They're just loaded up and
they
down.
are loaded.
I mean,
We talked about the Astros being a very formidable team. So the Yankees better be in. Everybody better be healthy and ready to rock and roll, because that's a tough out, Houston.
Yep,
No question.
no question about it.
So let's switch gears to golf.
Doke.
Your little boy Justin Thomas wins yesterday the BMW,
Ran away with it,
and he actually played very well.
25 under, that's unheard of on
And again, we keep harping on the young guns on the PGA Tour, but he's definitely one of them, one of 30, 40, kids in their 20s that can do what he just did. So when he's on fire,
Yeah, and he's one of the 4 players to have some number of 5, 6 or something wins before his 25th birthday.
Right.
And so, and he's kind of dropped off. He's been a little quiet. Him and Jordan Spieth were the next, 2 Tiger
Shaq
Woods.
and Arnie.
Right.
right?
But yeah, so let's talk about so there's one more left, right? It's the Tour Championship. It's the final 30 guys, I guess.
Tiger did not make the cut. He played not well,
Yeah.
and he deserved not to make the cut. So you can count him out. Yeah.
I got to
Anybody-
think your guy Brooks has got to be the favorite to, this is a big thing for him. He thrives on majors, and I can't see him leaving this one on the golf course here.
So they play at East Lake.
Yeah, and I think it's just outside of Atlanta. I think
Okay.
last week I said it was in Chicago or outside of Chicago. I was thinking of Medina.
Right,
But,
right.
Yeah.
Well, $15 million is at stake for this.
Yes, it is. And that's what? It's next week? Is it next week?
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
it's coming
next
up.
week. Yep.
But congratulations to Justin Thomas. So you got Reed winning the first one, and you got Justin Thomas winning the second. And may the best man win. Because
Oh, it's wide
gonna
open
be,
now.
It's going to be a fierce competition.
And I got to be honest, I did this. It's such a complicated scoring system that they've implemented. I can't even make heads or tails of it. So, but it's wide open. It's actually wide open. So
Right.
looking
So we're
forward
looking
to that.
forward to that. There's no question.
Yep. And listen, just real quick before I don't even want to touch base on it because it's not even worthy. Is this whole NBA, this FIBA World Cup? Does anybody care about this? Anybody?
If anybody cares about this, please let us know by sending us an email at sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com.
And if you could name 5 guys on the roster that you would consider
Please
premier-
give us the 5 names.
Because this is a who could give a damn thing. I don't even see anything about.
whoop-de-damn-do, right?
But yeah, let's before we
we'll sign off, but unfortunately,
Yeah, we got
we
some
have our
notable passes.
notable passings once again.
Yes, we do.
But for our older audience, and I mean, kind of our generation and older, Jack Whitaker passed away over the weekend at age 95.
Yep.
And I think, again, the people in our age group remember Jack Whitaker mainly from probably the CBS days. He was there for 20 plus years, then he moved on to ABC. I think he was there for 20 years. But
Kind of like the ambassador of broadcasters during his era, right? And this goes way, way back to.
and he did commentary too. I mean, he was famous for,
That's what he was known
he
for.
would do a 2-3 minute piece on whatever the topic was. But Jack Whitaker, we found out, both of us actually today, was a armed, services member of World War II,
Yep.
and he got wounded on Omaha Beach during D-Day. So,
Oh.
that alone, I was
Makes
like,
it worth
oh,
no,
God.
it's-
So he passed away at 95. He was a great ambassador to sports,
Yeah.
broadcaster, like we said. So
I think he even called her. It was part of the broadcast team for the first Super Bowl.
yeah,
back in,
no, there's no doubt. He was all over that. He was,
And then his niche became, I think it was always like horse racing was one of his favorite pastimes,
Okay.
and he did a lot of things, certainly with the Secretariat.
yeah,
I remember one of his commentary pieces on Secretariat. It was
great.
awesome.
Right.
Awesome.
Right. So then R.I.P. Jack Whitaker.
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
for your service. And God, rest in peace.
Yes, sir.
And then on the younger side, we had a ex-NFLer we just saw over the weekend, former University of Texas running back, who was the 4th overall pick by the Chicago Bears,
All right.
Cedric Benson,
He was a good player.
36 years old.
Yeah. Motorcycle accident.
Yeah, and he had a passenger with him, and unfortunately they ran into a car. Did he have a great pro career? No. He had a couple good years, but was he worthy of a 4th overall pick? I think he's more remembered from the University of Texas, where he absolutely had a great career there.
Second all-time leading rusher at University of Texas. And I had to stop in my tracks and say, I'm obviously going to say Ricky Williams was number 1, which he was.
Right.
But how Earl Campbell was not number 2 or number 1 and vice versa. To me,
Because Earl didn't get the amount of carries that Benson got. It's probably as simple as that. I mean, if
I
Earl
guess.
Campbell got the carries, he would have been higher than Ricky Williams, I could tell you that.
right.
But we just wanted to make note that ex-NFLer running back Cedric Benson passed away.
Yep.
So,
And, okay, before we sign off, listen, I just wanted to double check on something we were talking about before. Surprisingly, I said we were surprised that Zach Greinke had 200. Clayton Kershaw, 160.
160.
That seems awfully low for a guy that's been kind of dominant for the past 10 years.
But I think that gets to the injury point. I think
guess.
Zach Greinke is
Been healthy.
Yeah, his arm is never really, Kershaw had shoulder problems and things like that. So I think that makes sense.
Yep.
So I don't even know if Kershaw now,
He might not get
he
200.
might not get 200,
I know.
right? I don't know how long Kershaw is going to go.
He's a give me the ball kind of guy, like Sabathia always was, no matter where he went and so forth. But you're right. He's periodically
He's on the back
experienced
nine.
some-
He's on the back nine of his career.
and not from any fault of his own, just simple wear and tear.
But-
The way he throws, it's very unusual.
And that's going to take its toll over time.
Usually does.
But he better win a World Series.
Well, listen, they got their best chance in a few years to do it.
He better win a World Series.
I hope so too, because I've always liked him. I love a guy that says, "Give me the ball."
He better pitch well in the playoffs because
You don't want to get that rap.
as dominant as he has been, and he's been dominant, no question about it. He hasn't actually been Mr. Sandy Koufax or somebody in the playoffs, or a Bob Gibson, or throw out a big game pitcher.
You expect a big game.
He hasn't done it.
I know.
He's been serviceable, but he better dominate like he does in the regular season, because that's the only way the Dodgers are winning the World Series.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
And listen, before we go, let's give one of our shout outs and like I said, it's Steve's friend Steve Schwartz.
Steven Schwartz, yes.
Yep. And he said some very complimentary things about us. He frequently sends us an email and
He also can be very poignant on his observations, but he's only trying to help us to make the show better. But he, he gives us the good and the bad. And
we
really
appreciate
it.
that.
Absolutely.
But thank you, Steve. And like I said, we like to mention the guys that reach out to us and offer their opinions. So.
And then our last segment, of course, was sponsored by Di Filippi's Bakery out of Monticello, New York. We wanted to mention them as always. Have been loyal to us. We want to thank Carmela. And once again, if you're in the Catskill area in Monticello, absolutely go in and enjoy the treats that she makes.
No doubt. Thank you. So listen, that's great. It was a good show. Like Steve said before, as we get closer to the NFL season, we'll dive a little bit more, do a
and
little
college
preview.
football too.
It's right around the corner.
That's even closer around the corner.
And don't think we're not going to bring up some high school football, because that's coming right around the corner as our St. Joe's Green Knights opens up out in California.
San Diego, right?
In August 31st, I believe.
Yeah.
And we went and checked out their practices. They got some big horses on that team. But they're playing some tough competition this year. They got a brutal schedule, but that's what big time
That's
teams
what being
do.
the sixth-ranked team in the nation is all about, playing the best. So good
So
luck.
we're
to the
going to
Green
mention
Knights.
them as we go along too.
You bet.
And good luck to Augie Hoffman and his staff, and we'll catch up.
We'll
to
be
you guys.
following. We'll be following.
All right, guys. Thanks
All
for
right.
joining us, and we'll catch up to you on our next show.
Have a great week, everybody. Thanks for listening.
All right, bye.
Bye.